Good morning, Ray.
Hey Pete, how you doing?
Very well, mate. We're living in very bizarre times.
Yeah, it's historic what's happening. It's obviously it's tragic, the number of people that have died from it. I just hope that we're taking measures right now that are going to keep the death toll down in our country. But it's just amazing the times we're going through. I mean, I didn't come through anything quite like this, as I was born in 43, so I was born in the middle of the Second World War. But, you know, the Great Depression and the Spanish flu back in 1919 and all of those other things, we've escaped all of that up until now. You'd be a very brave Prime Minister if you didn't take notice of your advisors. And in this case, he'd be leaning on the advice of his chief medical officer, and he'd be taking advice in turn from others. So, I mean, the first thing I think about is you've got to take notice of people who know more than you do. And eventually, it got down to Peter V'landys and Todd Greenberg, and they were told, obviously, that you can't keep going. You're going to have to pack up. As valiantly as they tried to keep going, I think their advice from the people that they look up to was that we had to shut down.
Ray, over the weekend, a lot of your colleagues in sports broadcasting, Fox Sports and Channel 9, they had to telecast a game without a crowd. Just in that, I guess from a commentary point of view, that's fairly hard to do.
It is obviously hard because I've done it. I've done it from empty grounds before. In the Amco Cup days, there were very small crowds. The only time you've got a big crowd would be the final, but it's not easy, and I don't think it's easy on the players either, to be quite frank with you, playing to an empty stadium. But the commentators that worked over the weekend you're talking about in round two, they were working from the studios. Now, that means that they weren't looking at an empty ground, really. The only pictures they were seeing were the same ones you were getting at home. So in the what's the word? In the vacuum of a TV studio, you've got to work out what's exciting and what's not exciting. In other words, it's very difficult because one of the things that I've always tried to do as a commentator of sport is to listen to the crowd. And they tell me when to be excited. They also tell me when not to be excited. So it's not easy. I've got to add, though, very quickly, that it is commonplace for radio and for television to do what they did at the weekend. In other words, broadcasting from their own studios, obviously saving accommodation, saving airfares. In 54 years of broadcasting, I've never had to do it. I've never worked from the station.
Your voice, your pitch, your urgency, without a crowd, even with the crowd, it all has to translate, I guess, into that excitement and the drama to be brought back into the lounge room.
No, you're right. Yeah, I get a lot of energy, if you like. I get electricity from the atmosphere of being at the ground. In the company of a crowd, and that gives me the notice that I need to get excited, go with them. They're cheering, you're cheering. They're not cheering, so you quieten it down. You know, that they are so important to a commentator of sport, in my opinion. There'll be people that will tell you that they can do it off the tube from in a studio somewhere in Sydney or Melbourne or wherever around the world. But I'm of the belief that to be a really good commentator, you have to be at the actual event. That is why I was so nervous about doing a match that was supposed to be played last night between Souths and the Roosters. I was absolutely beside myself with nerves, wondering, can I handle this thing sitting in the middle of a TV studio in Willoughby, Sydney, and broadcasting a match that was happening at ANZ Stadium, many, many kilometres away.
You know, you've always been at the ground, and I guess you're only going off the director. That's your life and blood.
Oh, well, that's right. You know, I mean, I shouldn't be quite so naive as to think that over 54 years, obviously, I've got a fair idea of what's exciting and what's not exciting. So it doesn't apply to me, obviously, as much as it would have when I was a young bloke, 22 years of age, just starting.
Say for a commentator, Ray, coming through right now, if you knew as a 6-year-old rolling those marbles in your hallway in Junee, if you couldn't go to the ground, you had to call off the TV. Does it take the edge off being a sports commentator, knowing that this could be the way television especially is going?
It's already happening, Peter. It's you know, you're watching a lot of stuff from something as big as the Olympic Games, and the Olympic Games has traditionally been a Channel 7 vehicle. There would be a lot of commentary, voice-over commentary coming out of studios in Melbourne and Sydney from the greatest sports event of all, the Olympic Games. You can just about bet your bottom dollar you're watching a match from New Zealand these days, whether you're watching it on 9 or Fox. The commentary will probably be coming from the studios in Sydney. Radio does it a lot, and one of the major reasons is not because of coronavirus. It's cost saving. You don't have airfares, you don't have accommodation. The only thing that I'm talking about is, from my point of view, I'd prefer to be at the event.
Mal Meninga, he's pretty optimistic about a rescheduled Origin series going forward. Everything's in the air, I understand that, but do you think we could go down that track, playing State of Origin and Test football, if we're allowed later in the year?
It depends how long it goes on for. You just can't pull a pair of boots on and play State of Origin. It's almost impossible just to pull a pair of boots on and have a game of rugby league unless you've been in See, the average player, depending on whether they play in the finals or not, they go back to training on the 1st of November. So, you know, it's about 4 months of preparation before they finish the pre-season and they start playing football. So I don't know how fit these players are going to be, and of course I don't know when we're going to get back on the park. So to answer your question, I can't answer your question. The thing with Origin is it's such a big money spinner, and it's so popular. They will do anything they can, I'm sure, to put an Origin series together. But getting the players prepared to be able to play, that's a different kettle of fish.
Ray, how are you handling? I guess you're no longer on the golf course. How are you handling this day and age?
I'm handling it. My problem is I'm pretty hard to entertain. You know, I don't read books. Never have. I wrote one, but I didn't read it, I don't think. I find it very difficult, and it's very, very strange. But then I stop and think about people that have lost their job, and some people have lost their life and all the rest of it. So it's no use feeling sorry for yourself, really.
And fingers crossed we'll be back out on the park and you'll be back in the commentary box fairly shortly.
Well, yeah, look, I won't be in the commentary box for much longer. We all know that. But my plan this year was to do a few matches that the network wanted me to do. But the end is coming. I'm aware of that, and it has to come. I was only just thinking while we're having this discussion, talking about corona, and you're talking about isolation. A friend of mine lost his wife 8 days ago to Alzheimer's, and they were only allowed to have a maximum of 10 people at the funeral. Modern technology allowed me to stream into the actual service, which was attended just by the family, members of the family, up to 10 people. I just wanted to relay that story, how I appreciated so much the way modern technology allowed me to basically be at that funeral even though I wasn't.
Let's look after each other at this time.
Yeah, well, it's a great tonic, isn't it? You know, it's a medicine, if you like, or you can call it therapy if you like. It's a weekly dose. It's a weekly dose of therapy, or a weekly dose of castor oil that your mother used to give you. You know,
Yeah.
Rugby league is, to me, it's a bit like castor oil. It's a dose of excitement to my week, and it has been for many, many years, and it is for a lot of people. So you're right. If we can get back, that'll be good. But let's hope we can get rid of this bloody virus before anything else.
Good to chat with you, Ray. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, Peter. Thank you, mate.